On the planet Zalith, there was a beautiful yet lonely princess named Lyria. Her skin shimmered like the stars. Her eyes were deep and full of wisdom, and her long silver hair flowed like a river of light. To anyone who looked at her, she appeared to be the perfect princess, the jewel of her people. But to Lyria, it was all a lie. She was not the woman that everyone thought she was. Lyria's beauty was hidden behind a disability. When she was young, she had been in an accident. Her legs were left paralyzed, and now she sat in a chair most of the time, unable to walk. The people of Zalith were known for their strength, their speed, and their agility. They believed that only the strong should lead, and only those who could move freely should be seen as worthy of anything important, because of her disability. Lyria was treated differently. Many suitors came to the royal palace, hoping to win her heart and gain favor with the royal family. But none of them truly saw her. They saw her as a princess, yes, but not as someone with feelings. They would bow to her, offer gifts, and speak of alliances, but none of them ever asked about her dreams, her fears, or her hopes. They saw her chair and looked away. Her family loved her, but even they could not understand the isolation she felt. Her father, King Tholin, wanted her to marry a powerful suitor, one who could help strengthen their kingdom. But Lyria knew that none of these suitors truly cared for her. They cared for her title, her beauty, and what she represented, not who she truly was. Her mother, Queen Nerea, tried to comfort her by saying, "Lyria, you are a princess. You will always be important. You do not need to worry about finding someone. Someone will choose you." But Lyria didn't want to be chosen out of duty. She wanted to be loved for who she truly was, not for what she represented. Days turned into weeks, and Lyria spent most of her time in the gardens of the palace. There, she would sit by the fountain, watching the water flow and the birds fly. She loved the outdoors, but it only made her feel more trapped. The world was vast, and she could see it all, but she could never fully be a part of it. The only company she had was the wind and the flowers that surrounded her. One day, as she sat by the fountain, her mind wandered to thoughts of the future. She had been pressured by her family to choose a mate, but every suitor was the same. They smiled politely, spoke of their strength and riches, but Lyria knew that none of them would ever see her for who she was inside. She had tried to talk to her father about it, but he was too focused on securing alliances with other species to listen to her pain. But it wasn't just her family. People of Zalith also treated her differently. Whenever she walked through the halls of the palace, she could feel their eyes on her. They whispered behind her back, unsure of how to treat the princess who couldn't walk. They felt sorry for her, but no one dared to speak to her as a friend. She was simply Lyria, had grown tired of the pity, made her angry, but there was nothing she could do. She would never be like the others, and that was something she had to accept. She had begun to believe that she would spend the rest of her life alone, in the shadow of her own people's expectations. The idea of love seemed so far away, something that belonged to other people, not to her. It was on a quiet afternoon, while Lyria was once again sitting by the fountain, that the sound of footsteps approached. She didn't look up at first, assuming it was just another member of the royal staff. But then she heard a voice. That was different from the usual whispers and polite greetings. "Is this seat taken?" The voice was calm and kind, not condescending or filled with pity. Lyria turned her head to see who had spoken. Standing before her was a man, but not one she had ever seen before. He was tall, with dark brown hair and a smile that seemed genuine. His clothes were simple compared to the other suitors she had met, but there was something in his eyes that made her feel as if he understood her. "No," Lyria said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The man sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm Marcus," he said, offering his hand. Lyria hesitated for a moment. She wasn't used to people showing her kindness without wanting something in return, but something about Marcus made her feel safe. She took his hand and he smiled. "Lyria," she replied, "why are you here?" "I came to speak with the king," Marcus said, but then he glanced around at the peaceful garden. "But I think I'm in the wrong place for that." Lyria chuckled softly. "The palace can be full of people, but it always feels empty." Marcus nodded. "I know the feeling." For the first time in a long while, Lyria felt a small spark of hope. She had spent so much time hiding from the world, waiting for someone to notice her. But Marcus didn't look at her with pity. He looked at her with respect, as if she was a person, not a princess. It was strange to her, but at the same time, it felt good. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Lyria found herself opening up to him in a way she never had with anyone before. She told him about her childhood, her dreams, and the loneliness she had felt for so long. Marcus listened carefully, never interrupting, always patient. It was the first time she had ever felt truly heard. As the sun began to set, Marcus stood up. "I have to go," he said, but his eyes lingered on her for a moment longer. "But I'll be back tomorrow, if you want to talk again." Lyria nodded, not knowing what to say. She felt a warmth in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, she didn't feel alone, as Marcus walked away. Lyria watched him disappear into the distance, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of hope. Could this be the beginning of something different? Could someone truly see her? Not as a princess, but as a person. Only time would tell. But for now, she had something she hadn't had in a long time: hope. The next day, Lyria woke early, a feeling of excitement buzzing through her chest. It was strange. She hadn't felt this way in years. The day before, Marcus had been different. His words, his actions, they had all felt so sincere. She had never met anyone like him before. Someone who didn't pity her, who didn't see her as an object of sympathy. He saw her for who she was, and that had left her with a feeling she couldn't shake. The garden was still the same. The flowers bloomed, the birds chirped, and the fountain's water flowed gently. But to Lyria, everything felt different today. It was as if the world was brighter, and for once, she didn't feel so small in it. She could feel a quiet anticipation building inside her. She couldn't wait to see Marcus again, as she sat by the fountain. Waiting for him, her mind raced. What if he didn't come? What if yesterday had just been a polite conversation? The thought made her nervous, but she pushed it away. Marcus had promised he would come back. She had to trust him. Lyria's thoughts were interrupted when she heard footsteps approaching. She turned around quickly, hoping to see Marcus. And there he was, standing in the sunlight, a warm smile. On his face, "Good morning," he greeted her, his voice calm and kind. "Good morning," Lyria replied, her voice a little quieter than usual. She was nervous, but she didn't want him to see it. She had spent too much of her life hiding her feelings. But something about Marcus made her want to be open. He sat down next to her. But this time, there was a sense of familiarity between them, as if they had known each other for far longer than a single conversation. "How are you today?" Marcus asked, looking at her with genuine curiosity. "I'm good," Lyria said, smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. "Better. Actually, I didn't expect to feel this way." "Glad," Marcus replied. "Sometimes just talking with someone can make a difference." Lyria nodded. "I never thought I'd be able to talk to someone like this. Most people, ... they don't listen. They only see the chair and forget that I'm still a person." Marcus's face softened. "I know the feeling. I've met many people in my life who judge others before even getting to know them." "Different, Lyria. You've got a strength that most people can't see." Her heart fluttered at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like this. He wasn't just speaking kindly out of politeness. He genuinely believed what he was saying. Lyria paused, unsure of how to continue, but she wanted to open up more. "Always felt ... like I don't belong. People look at me like I'm not enough, like I'm broken." Marcus turned toward her, his gaze serious now. "Lyria, you are more than enough. You are strong, intelligent, and beautiful in your own way. People who don't see that are the ones who are blind." Lyria felt something warm inside her chest. It wasn't just the words he said, but the way he said them. She felt heard. For the first time in years, the weight she had carried on her shoulders seemed lighter, even if only for a moment. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Marcus smiled. "You don't have to thank me. You deserve to hear that every day." There was a long silence, but it was a comfortable one. The sound of the birds and the soft rustling of the leaves filled the space between them. Lyria could feel her heart racing, but this time, it wasn't because of nerves. It was because of the strange, exciting feeling that was growing inside her. She wanted to say something, but the words didn't come. After a few moments, Marcus broke the silence. "Lyria, I've been thinking. About what we talked about yesterday?" She looked up at him, unsure of what he meant. He turned to face her completely, his eyes full of sincerity. "I know this might sound sudden, but I want to ask you something. And I want you to know that there's no pressure, no expectations. But I'm serious when I say it." Lyria's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what he was about to ask, but she could feel the importance of the moment. Marcus took a deep breath. "Will you be my mate?" Lyria stared at him, her mind racing. She hadn't expected that. Of course, she knew that marriage was important in her society, but she had never imagined someone, especially someone like Marcus, would ask her. "Your mate?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Marcus said softly. "I'm asking you, Lyria, to be by my side. Not because I feel sorry for you or because of your title, but because I see you, the real you. I see your strength, your kindness, and your beauty. And I want to be with you, if you'll have me." Lyria felt her heart beating faster. The room seemed to spin, but she was grounded by the warmth of his words. She had never been asked this before. In her entire life, no one had looked at her and asked her this question with such honesty. "But... why me?" Lyria asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you choose someone like me?" Marcus smiled softly. "Because you're not like anyone else, Lyria. You're different, and that's what makes you special. You don't have to be perfect in everyone's eyes. You just need to be you." She stared at him for a long moment, her mind overwhelmed with emotions she didn't fully understand. But one thing was clear. He truly cared about her. Not for her title or her position, but for who she was. Lyria blinked away the tears that had formed in her eyes. She'd been waiting for someone to see her, to truly see her. And now, here. Was Marcus asking her to be by his side? "I don't know what to say," Lyria whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Marcus reached out and gently took her hand in his. "You don't have to say anything right now. I just wanted you to know that the offer is there. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here." Lyria's heart swelled with a mixture of fear and hope. Come. She had never imagined that someone would ask her to be their mate, but now it felt like the start of something new, something that could change everything. "Thank you," she said softly, squeezing his hand. Marcus smiled again, and for the first time, Lyria felt like maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of the love she had always dreamed of. The days after Marcus's proposal were filled with quiet uncertainty. Lyria couldn't stop thinking about his words, his gaze, the sincerity in his voice. The question echoed in her mind, louder than any of the doubts that had always crowded her thoughts. Will you be my mate? She had never been asked such a thing before. Her life had always been about survival, about existing as a symbol of what was expected, not as someone with her own desires. Now, Marcus had given her a choice she never thought she would have. The question was simple, yet its weight was immense. Lyria sat in the royal gardens again, the same fountain beside her. But today, the flowers seemed more vibrant, the air fresher. It wasn't the garden that had changed, that was her. For the first time, she felt a flicker of hope, a spark that perhaps things could be different. The sun was setting, casting a soft orange glow over the world. Lyria's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned her head to see Marcus walking toward her, his usual calm demeanor in place. His smile was warm, but there was a certain nervousness in his eyes. He had been waiting for her answer, and Lyria could sense the tension in him. "Good evening, Lyria," he greeted, his voice gentle. "Good evening, Marcus," Lyria replied, her heart fluttering. She knew the moment had come. She had to decide. She motioned for him to sit beside her, and as he did, there was a comfortable silence between them. Neither of them spoke right away, both aware of the significance of this moment. Lyria had spent her life hiding her true feelings, never allowing herself to think about what she wanted because it always seemed impossible. But now, sitting next to Marcus, the man who had seen her for who she really was, the weight of the decision began to feel less heavy. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Lyria, I don't want to rush you. I know this is a big decision, and I'm not expecting an answer right away. But I just wanted you to know that I'm here whenever you're ready." Lyria looked at him, seeing the patience and respect in his eyes. He wasn't pushing her, wasn't demanding an answer. He was simply there, offering her the space to decide. That was something she had never experienced before. People had always expected her to fit into a mold, to act in a way that suited their needs. But with Marcus, there was no mold. There was no expectation. He was offering her something completely new, something beautiful, the chance to choose her own path. She took a deep breath, her fingers brushing the cool stone of the fountain. The decision was harder than she had imagined. It wasn't just about Marcus. It was about everything she had known in her life, about her people, her family, and the fears that had always held her back. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Lyria began, her voice quieter than usual. "I've spent so much of my life trying to be someone I'm not, trying to live up to expectations that were never mine to begin with. And when you asked me to be your mate, I didn't know how to react. It felt like a dream, something I wasn't allowed to have." Marcus listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. He could see the struggle in her, the hesitation, and he knew that this wasn't an easy decision for her. "But then I thought about something," Lyria continued. "I've been living for everyone else's approval, for everyone else's idea of who I should be. But for once, I want to live for myself. I want to choose what makes me happy, not what I think I'm supposed to do." Her heart pounded in. Her chest, she was saying it. She was finally saying what she had been afraid to admit for so long. The fear of rejection, the fear of being alone, had kept her locked in a cage of her own making. But Marcus had given her the key. All she had to do was turn it. "I choose you, Marcus," Lyria said, her voice firm now, full of conviction. "I choose you because you see me, not as a princess, not as a symbol, but as me. And that means more to me than I can say." Eyes widened slightly, and for a moment he didn't speak, simply reached out, taking her hand in his. "You won't regret this," he said softly. "I promise." Lyria smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. It felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She had chosen herself, and in doing so, she had chosen Marcus. For the first time in her life, she felt in control of her own destiny. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Lyria's decision had shocked many people, especially her family. Her father, King Thowlin, had tried to convince her to reconsider, to choose someone from their own people, someone who could help protect the kingdom. But Lyria was resolute. She had made her choice, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. Her mother, Queen Nerea, was more understanding. "You've always been your own person, Lyria," she said, her voice gentle. "I know this is what you want. Just promise me one thing. Don't lose yourself in this. Stay true to who you are." Lyria nodded, grateful for her mother's support. She had always respected her mother's wisdom, and now she felt a deeper bond with her than ever before. She wasn't alone in this decision. She had the support of the people who truly mattered. As for Marcus, he respected her space, but was always there when she needed him. They spent more time together, getting to know each other better. Marcus shared stories of Earth, of the struggles and triumphs of humanity. Lyria found herself fascinated by his world, by the way he spoke of it with such passion and pride. Lyria had always known that her life would be different, but she had never imagined it would be like this. With Marcus by her side, she felt more alive than ever. She felt as though for the first time she was truly seen. The decision had been made, but the journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. And no matter what, Lyria knew that she had chosen a path that was hers. One where she could finally be the person she was always meant to be. The days after Lyria's decision to accept Marcus as her mate were filled with excitement, but also with a whirlwind of emotion she hadn't expected. It was strange to her, this feeling of being both excited and uncertain at the same time. She had made the choice to be with Marcus, but there was still a part of her that wondered if she was making the right decision. She had spent most of her life being told what to do, living in the shadow of her disability and trying to meet the expectations of those around her. Now she had chosen to do something for herself, to follow her heart and not the rules others had set for her. But that didn't make it any easier. As the days passed, Lyria found herself facing new challenges. The royal court, where once she had been treated as an untouchable princess, now viewed her decision with a mix of surprise and concern. Her choice to accept Marcus, a human from another world, seemed unthinkable to many. Some whispered that it was a mistake, that she was too caught up in the excitement of something new. Others were more direct in their criticism, suggesting that she should have chosen someone from her own kind, someone who could bring strength to their kingdom. Her father, King Tholan, had called her to the royal chambers for a private conversation. He had a worried look on his face as he paced back and forth. Lyria, he began, his voice steady but filled with concern. I understand that you wish to make your own choices, but this is not just about you. It's about the future of our people. Marcus is from another world. He cannot offer the same protection and alliances that one of our own could. Lyria listened quietly, her heart heavy. She knew that her father cared for her deeply, but she also knew that his views were shaped by his desire to protect the kingdom. It wasn't about her happiness, it was about the security of their people. I understand your worries, father, she said softly. But I've chosen Marcus because he sees me for who I truly am. It's not because I'm a princess or because of my title. He sees me as a person. King Tholan stopped pacing and looked at her, his expression softening. You cannot ignore the fact that the rest of the galaxy may not understand your choice. Humans are unknown to us, and we cannot be sure that this alliance will benefit us as much as you believe. I'm not thinking about alliances or power, Lyria said, her voice firm. I'm thinking about what makes me happy. And Marcus makes me happy. Her father sighed, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders evident. I cannot force you to change your mind, but I want you to know that your decision will affect more than just you. It will affect everyone. Lyria nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. She knew that her decision was not without consequences, but she also knew that she couldn't keep living her life to please others. For the first time in years, she was making a choice for herself. She wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. Later that evening, Marcus came to find Lyria in the gardens, as they had agreed to meet every day. The moonlight bathed the garden in a soft glow, and the gentle sound of the fountain filled the air with calm. Lyria was waiting by the fountain, her thoughts still heavy from her conversation with her father. She had expected to feel at peace with her decision, but now, more than ever, she felt unsure. Could she really bring Marcus into her world? Could he truly understand her struggles as a disabled princess in a galaxy where strength was everything? When Marcus arrived, he could see the troubled expression on her face. He walked toward her, his face full of concern. Lyria? He asked, softly, his voice filled with warmth. What's wrong? Lyria hesitated for a moment before speaking. I've been thinking a lot about everything. My father's right. This is a big decision. It's not just about me, it's about my people, my family, and the future of our kingdom. Marcus listened quietly, not interrupting. Knowing that this was something Lyria needed to say, I want to be with you, Lyria continued, her voice shaky, but I also feel like I'm letting everyone down. My family, my people, they don't understand. They don't see you the way I do. Marcus stepped closer, his hand gently touching hers. Lyria, I know that things are complicated. I understand that your world is different and that there are pressures on you. But I can't promise that everything will be easy. But I can promise is that I will always stand by you, no matter what happens. Lyria looked into his eyes, feeling the sincerity in his words. She had never heard such honesty before. She could feel his devotion to her, and for the first time, she realized that Marcus wasn't just offering her love, he was offering her support, no matter what challenges they might face. I'm scared, Lyria admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared of what will happen if I choose you, if I choose us. Marcus smiled gently. It's okay to be scared. I am too. But we can face it together. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out. Lyria took a deep breath, the weight of her fears still heavy but lighter now. She was no longer facing this alone. She had Marcus by her side, and that made all the difference. That night, as Lyria lay in her bed, her mind was filled with thoughts of the future. She knew that her decision would come with difficulties. There was no way around that. But for the first time, she felt a sense of peace. She had made a choice, and it was her choice to make. And no matter what the future held, she was ready to face it with Marcus beside her. As the days passed, Lyria's connection with Marcus grew stronger. They spent more time together, talking about their worlds, their dreams, and their fears. Lyria found herself laughing more, enjoying the simple things like walking with Marcus in the gardens, or listening to him tell stories of Earth, and with every passing day, she felt less afraid. Less afraid of her disability, less afraid of her father's disapproval, and less afraid of the unknown. Because for the first time, she realized that she had a voice. She had the power to choose her own path. As the days passed, Lyria and Marcus grew even closer. Each moment they spent together was filled with warmth and understanding. Lyria found herself looking forward to their daily meetings, where they would walk through the palace gardens, talk about their different worlds, and share quiet, peaceful moments. For the first time, she felt truly seen by Marcus by herself, and in ways she hadn't imagined possible. But despite the growing closeness between them, the tension from her family and the royal court was always present. King Tholon continued to express his concern, trying to convince Lyria that she was making a mistake, that she should choose someone from their own people. He argued that a human alliance could never be as beneficial as one with an alien from Zalith. Her mother, Queen Nerea, had been more supportive, though still cautious. You know what this means, Lyria? She had told her softly. This is more than just a decision about a mate. It's about our future, about the future of our kingdom. Are you sure about this? Lyria had remained silent, knowing that her mother's concerns came from a place of love. But deep inside, she felt certain about her choice. Marcus didn't just offer her companionship. He offered her something much deeper, a chance to be herself, to be free of the expectations that had always weighed her down. One evening, after a particularly difficult conversation with her father, Lyria stood in front of her mirror, looking at the reflection staring back at her. She saw a young woman, a princess, yes, but also someone who had lived too long under the shadow of what others wanted her to be. The face in the mirror was familiar, but there was a new strength in her eyes, a new resolve that hadn't been there before. I've made my decision, she whispered to herself, her voice steady. The sound of footsteps outside her door pulled her from her thoughts. She turned, expecting it to be one of the palace staff, but when the door opened, it was Marcus standing there. His face was soft, his eyes filled with a quiet kind of hope. Lyria, he said gently. May I come in? She smiled, her heart lifting at the sight of him. Of course, Marcus. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He didn't need to say anything. The way he looked at her said it all. There was no rush, no urgency in his steps, just a calm presence that made everything feel right. I know things have been difficult, Marcus said, his voice low, and I can see that you're struggling with the decision. But I want you to know that no matter what happens, I will respect whatever choice you make. This is your life, Lyria. You're the one who gets to decide. Lyria's heart swelled. At his words, they were exactly what she needed to hear. She had spent so much of her life feeling as though her choices weren't her own, as if everything she did had to be in line with what others expected. But Marcus was offering her something that no one else ever had the freedom to choose, without fear. I've been thinking a lot, Lyria began, her voice steady now. I've spent my whole life being told what to do, what to want, what to be, but in the end, it's not their lives that matter, it's mine. And I want to choose a future that makes me happy, not one that's shaped by the expectations of others. Marcus stepped closer, his eyes filled with understanding. I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm not asking you to change for me. I'm asking you to be yourself. And if that means choosing me, then I'll be honored. But if it means choosing another path, I'll respect that too. Lyria felt her chest tighten as the weight of her decision loomed. But as she looked at Marcus, she knew in her heart that there was only one choice she could make. She had already made it, long ago, in the quiet moments when she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of a future with him. She took a deep breath and looked at him. Her eyes filled with determination. "I choose you, Marcus." He lit up with a smile, but he didn't say anything right away. Instead, he simply reached out and took her hand, his grip gentle but firm. There was nothing in his touch but support, no doubt, no hesitation. It was as if he had been waiting for her to make this choice, but never once had he pressured her into it. Lyria smiled back, her heart lighter than it had been in years. "I choose you," she repeated, her voice stronger now, "because you see me for who I am. Not because I'm a princess, not because of my title, but because I'm me. And for the first time, I feel like I'm enough just as I am." Marcus nodded, his eyes softening with affection. "You've always been enough, Lyria. You just needed to see it for yourself." The moment felt like the beginning of something new, something beautiful. Lyria had chosen a future with Marcus, but more than that, she had chosen herself. Had chosen to live on her own terms, to embrace the love and support that Marcus offered, without fear of what others might think. That night, as Lyria lay in bed, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had made the decision, and now she could finally move forward. There would be challenges ahead, she knew that. Her family would not fully understand, and the royal court would likely never approve. But none of that mattered anymore. She had found someone who loved her for who she truly was, and for the first time, she could breathe freely. The next morning, Lyria and Marcus stood together in the royal hall, ready to face the world. Her family had gathered to meet with them, to discuss the future of the kingdom and the uncertain path they would be walking. But as Lyria looked at Marcus beside her, she felt a sense of calm she hadn't expected. This was her choice, her future, and she was ready to face whatever came next, together with Marcus, by her side. The days following Lyria's decision to be with Marcus were filled with both challenges and joy. It wasn't an easy path. She had chosen a future that defied the expectations of her people, her family, and even herself at times. But as she stood beside Marcus, she felt a sense of peace that she had never known before. This was her choice. And for the first time in her life, it felt right. Her father, King Tholan, had not been easy to convince. The king's worries about Marcus and the future of the kingdom weighed heavily on his heart. Still, after several long, intense conversations, Lyria's words had reached him. Though he did not fully understand her decision, he could not deny the strength of her resolve. Her choice was made, and he had no choice but to support it, even if it wasn't what he had imagined. Lyria's mother, Queen Neria, had been more accepting. "I trust you, Lyria," she had said gently. "You are not just a princess. You are my daughter. And I will always stand by you, no matter what." Despite their differing opinions, Lyria knew that her parents loved her, even if they didn't fully understand her decision. It was a relief to know that, at the very least, she had their support. Marcus, on the other hand, had no doubts. He had always been sure that Lyria was the one for him. His patience, understanding, and support never wavered, by her side. Every step of the way, never pressuring her, only offering her comfort when the weight of her decision became too much to bear. It wasn't just his love for her that held them together. It was the deep respect they shared. The royal court, however, was a different matter. The alien officials and nobles of Zalith were skeptical of Marcus and the bond he shared with their princess. They questioned the decision, whispering in the corners of the palace, unsure if an alliance with a human could ever bring the same strength as one between two members of the same species. The whispers didn't stop Lyria. She had made her choice, and though the court tried to push her into reconsidering, she held her ground. She wasn't just the princess of Zalith anymore. She was a woman who had found love, trust, and a future that was hers to shape. One afternoon, As Lyria and Marcus walked through the palace gardens, hand in hand, she looked at him and smiled. The sun cast a warm glow over the path ahead of them, and for the first time in a long while, Lyria felt truly at home. The doubts that had once plagued her seemed to disappear in his presence. "Marcus," Lyria began, her voice soft, "I don't think I've ever truly thanked you for everything you've done." He stopped walking and turned to face her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't need to thank me," he said, his voice filled with tenderness. "I'm here because I love you, Lyria. You don't owe me anything." Lyria's heart swelled at his words. She had never known such unconditional love, such unwavering support. It was something she had only dreamed of. "I know," she replied. "But I do owe you my gratitude. You've shown me what it means to be seen, to be valued for who I truly am. I never thought I could have this kind of happiness." Marcus smiled softly, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "You deserve it, Lyria. You've always deserved it." Lyria leaned in and kissed him gently on the cheek, feeling the warmth of the moment settled deep within her. They stood there for a long while, just enjoying each other's company, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges came their way. As the weeks passed, Lyria's decision became more accepted by those around her. The royal court, though still hesitant, slowly began to realize the strength of the bond between Lyria and Marcus. They saw how happy she was, how confident she had become, and how her love for Marcus brought out the best in her. The people of Zalith, too, began to warm to the idea of the alliance. It wasn't easy for them to accept someone from a different world, but seeing the love and respect between Lyria and Marcus made them reconsider their doubts. Slowly but surely, they began to see that the strength of an alliance was not just in power or military might, but in trust, understanding, and the willingness to see beyond differences. Even King Tholan, who had once been so against the union, found himself softening. One evening, as Lyria and Marcus sat with their parents for dinner, the king turned to them both. "I don't fully understand it," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of his responsibility. "But I see how much you care for each other. I see how much happiness you bring to my daughter." Lyria felt a lump in her throat at her father's words. It wasn't the full acceptance she had hoped for, but it was something. It was a sign that her father, too, was learning to embrace the love she had found. Even if it didn't fit his expectations. "I'm proud of you, Lyria," King Tholan continued. "You've shown great strength, and I'm willing to give this alliance a chance. For you," Lyria smiled through her tears. It was more than she had ever expected from her father, and it meant more to her than anything else. As time went on, Lyria and Marcus continued to grow together, their bond strengthening with each passing day. Lyria's confidence flourished, and she no longer felt trapped by the weight of her disability or the expectations of others. She had found someone who loved her for who she truly was, and in that love, she had found the courage to be herself. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, Lyria felt ready to face whatever came her way. She was no longer defined by her disability, her title, or her people's expectations. She was Lyria, woman in love, with a future full of possibilities, and with Marcus by her side. She knew that they could face anything together.